Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Bernard Moore the third with More on the Road here in my office at church. Praising God this lovely morning. Thank you for tuning in. I'm here with Coach Alphaka Moore, AD, Athletic Director, Head Girls Basketball Coach at Natchez High in Adams County, Mississippi. How you doing today, Coach?
I'm doing well. I'm happy to be there. How you doing this morning?
I am fine. Now, I know we've kind of talked about a little. How are things going with the start of school? I know that you all just started school this past Monday. How are things going so far?
Things are going good. It's just kind of everybody trying to get their feet wet again. It's kind of like starting over. You got kids coming back to school that haven't been there in a long time. Kids that were virtual last year who are trying to get back used to interacting with others. Um, it's pretty interesting actually, but it's going good.
But y'all haven't had any issues with any COVID spread. I know with this new variant coming through, and a lot of I've seen that some schools had to shut down after 2 or 3 days due to the fact that they had some strains going on. So they had to shut things down. So y'all haven't had any issues of that nature.
No, we haven't had any issues. We haven't had too many problems with that at all, and we're thankful for that. I know quite a few schools have had to shut down for a couple weeks, but we haven't encountered anything like that so far. We just big on everybody keeping their mask on at all times, and everybody's trying their best to make sure everybody's safe.
Now I know Natchez High School is a public school, and with public schools sometimes can get overcrowded. And I know that you guys are growing down in Adams County, and that's I know that you guys are definitely growing. How is the I mean, well, not saying student teacher ratio. How are you all separating the students to try to at least keep them distance from each other, not all up on each other?
They have different safety measures in place, especially for um, instances where you might have larger class sizes, but the goal this year has been to limit class size so we can have more space in those classrooms. Classrooms that were normally smaller in size, we didn't utilize those classrooms. We moved to areas where kids could space out a whole lot more, and just making sure that everybody's able to have their own space, but mainly keeping those masks on at all times when they're indoors.
But with that, have y'all had to make modifications in the schedule? Like say I can't say last time I've been down to Natchez, the honest it was at night, and I just saw the football field locker room, and I left up out of there. But that's been some years ago, so I know that y'all probably made some upgrades since that was back in the '90s. So I know y'all made a lot of upgrades since then.
Right.
Are y'all utilizing each building to its max capacity? What I mean by not saying that you stuffing everybody in two different classrooms, saying are you all using every inch of the building that you can to space out the students?
Yes, that's what we're trying our best to do. For example, you know how you have those smaller classrooms. We're not utilizing those, only using areas where students are able to safely spread out a little more. There's certain areas of campus that are off limits because they do kind of encourage a lot of congregation, and we try to limit students going into those areas. When you go into the cafeterias, the seats are sectioned off by and the tables by like the glass dividers and things like that to
Uh-huh.
make sure that everybody is safe.
Well, with that, now I'm not sure exactly how some schools with the cafeteria wise. Do y'all have those tables with the seats already attached to them, or you have just the tables and the chairs that you slide up in?
So we just have the divided chairs, so you can move those chairs around the way you need to, and it's been allowing us to be able to space things out with scheduling wise, where we would normally have quite a few classrooms in the cafeteria. We limited that so there's not as many classes going to the cafeteria at the same time, and it's just kind of make sure that not too many students run into each other at the same time.
What's the population? Well, no, I'm saying popular. What's the enrollment in that child this year?
We're 5A grade 9 to grade 11 and 12. I think we're nearing maybe 1,000 to 1,200 students. But of course, that's not the full enrollment as of right now. You have a lot of students who are still staying at home because they may have medical reasons, or their parents may have medical reasons where they don't feel like they need to return to school at this time. So we're not all the way up to full actual physical enrollment. We still have quite a few kids that are going to school at home.
Okay, are you guys providing online learning, or everything that you would continue to encourage everyone physical to be in the school building, or you all offering both hybrid online?
For those kids that need to stay at home, that really need to stay at home, it's offered for them to be able to do their classes online. But for the most part, everything is you have to physically be on campus. But in the case that we would have to shut down for any reason, that online option would be available to everyone.
Now let's take a time back in history. Finna give
Okay.
you a history lesson. Now, when the introduction of all this Zoom and this online streaming stuff, we just looked at it and said, "Well, there's something else that they're trying to do." How handy has this? Well, not saying how handy. How much learning that you all have to do to deal with this now, because of that you're trying to offer, you still want to continue to offer education.
Right.
So now you're adding different means of saying, hey, we still got to teach our students, because when we first introduced us, we just had to shut school completely down. We had no way of kind of reaching them. But then, hey, here comes this program that's been in existence for years before.
Right.
Now y'all want to flood it. And then at first it was a kind of a hindrance in it, because it was overloaded. And I think they went in and made some upgrades and bugs. So now, how do you think this new technology of learning has helped us out in the long run, and as well as for the future?
I think it's definitely a useful tool. I mean, it provides so many more opportunities because, we talk about providing education, but the thing is to provide a quality education. So when we're looking at going to online teaching, for a teacher, that's a whole different ball game, especially if you're used to being in a classroom with students. And I think it's a great opportunity for us to be able to teach our kids from anywhere. But from a I'm not gonna lie, like from a teaching standpoint, like when school used to shut down for like bad weather days, you like, yes, like I get a break. And now it's like, no, you still gotta have class. But it's good. I like it. Sometimes it can make things a little more stressful, but to be able to provide constant education to the kids is really good, especially in a time like this. So it's good.
You listen to More on the Road with Bernard Moore the Third, presented to you by More Sports Management. We got a good friend down at Natchez High School, Adams County coach Alphaka Moore, athletic director down there on the show with us. Now, I know, like you said, that when we had bad weather before all this came upon, hey, I got a free break. Now the principals and the superintendent, they saying, hey, we still got to get them education, those educated days in, because of it's so many days that you have to have education. They have to be taught. But if you start missing days, then that's going to prolong the school year. So
Right.
yes, as a student and as a former educator, yeah, I used to enjoy them times. I said, man, no school, shoot, I'm finna sit back and relax. But nah, now you gotta, like I said, you gotta make sure that you fix yourself up so that you can present to your student. Now, with that being said, how many students had you constantly had to get on? They falling asleep, there or their cameras looking up at the ceiling or is looking down at the keyboard. Now, how many times you have to get on your students to pay attention?
I mean, that is like a constant thing, and it's so funny because where your normal classroom rules would be like no talking while the teacher is talking, no getting up, walking around the class without permission, something like that. When you're online, it's like, okay, classroom rule number one: everybody's camera has to be on at all times. But with that, it's like you just never know what you're gonna see. And I'm understanding with them, like it's hard to sit in front of a camera for hours. It's so crazy. Like I recently had to do lead professional development, and I had to do it on Zoom from that camera, and it was like 6 hours, and I'm like, that's very hard for an adult to do. I can imagine for a child or a teenager. But it's constant like turn your camera on, sit up, let me see you in the camera, and just listen to some of my kids, like my basketball players. They tell me some of their stories about how they one of them told me they had like a mannequin they set up in front of the camera. I'm like, these kids are hilarious.
But it's something. I have to attend a conference conference next summer, and I was making plans to travel.
Mm.
And but this year they had it online. doing it via Zoom. I was like, oh man, so this will be very exciting. It's a 2 day conference. I'm about to sit in there for 8 hours to stay awake and look at this. I'm just like, oh gosh, I'm not prepared. Mentally, I'm not prepared for it. So I understand exactly where they're coming from. But at least I've been in the comfort of my own home. So hopefully everything will work out to the best. But I'm me personally, I physically like to be there. I don't like sitting on the conference Zoom because this technology may go in and out sometimes. So I understand the students, but hey, you still got to get it in.
All right. It's so interesting. The biggest thing about this online schooling is that, for example, we're dealing with an unreliable source like internet. We're in Mississippi. Some of us are in areas where you have good connections. Some of us are in areas where you have poor connections. You got tornadoes coming through every now and then. And it's the funniest things, like you talk to a child and you're like, hey, you didn't turn in your homework. And they were like, I lost service. I lost it. You weren't in class. I lost service. And it's like, what can you say? I can't say that that's not true. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it is, and I see. You hate that this happened. You hate that this happened, and you can see a lot of companies are monetizing off of this because of hey, you want to upgrade your service. So come on, try our new service so that you can have better service. We know that you need to be online, and some companies are helping out, especially within in the rural areas. Some companies are extending are building more towers to reach those areas because they know this is needed now
Right.
because of what we're going through. So you can see it's a give and take. Somebody always got to try to make money, and somebody's always going to try to be there to be a helpful hand. And sometimes you don't know which direction to go into with that.
Right.
Now, enough of education stuff. That was our educational moment provided by the students and teachers of Natchez High School. Now, let's talk some basketball.
Okay.
Now, what? Well, now almost now, let's go to basketball in a few. Athletics. Now, with you being an athletic director, how is the fall sport athletics going to look like this year for you all?
Honestly, we're going into the unknown. Very similarly to what we experienced last year. We've around the country, you've seen, vaccinations have come out, and it's providing the opportunity for people to be able to take care of themselves a little better. But it still causes, we still in that place of we're not sure what's going to happen. We plan on going into fall sports normally, but you just don't really know. For example, volleyball has started, football gets ready to start next week, a week after next, and the question is, how many of these schools are going to actually be able to play? You have schools closing week by week because when one or two cases, 3 to 5 cases come around, you have to shut down because it easily spreads, and we know that this variant affects children more. So it's we're just walking into the unknown right now. We're prepared to take on athletics normally, but we have to play it by ear.
But I know this was a created game back in the day, and some people just thought it was very funny. I don't know if you remember how guys and people, they put on those big balloons and run around and bounce against each other.
Yeah.
Is that what sports gonna look like now?
I I if if that would allow us to be out there and play safely, I would say yes, let's do it. Because things are just so, it's just day by day. It's really day by day. You plan, for example, we'll plan to play our football games, our volleyball games, and with that, it brings along other pieces. You have your cheer, you have your band, all those pieces that are part of that. And 1 to 3 cases, 3 to 4 cases, all that can be shut down for a couple weeks. So it's definitely interesting right now.
Well, but you've been after. How are you preparing your coaches, to share the information on with the student athletes? That we're preparing for a game that we have used football. We're preparing for a game Friday. We practice Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Thursday is a light walkthrough, but then you get to school Friday saying, "Hey, we got to cancel the game." Do you have any? I know monetary wise, that's definitely gonna hurt. Do you have any other plans to say, "Hey, well, this is what we're gonna do just in case if we get a game canceled, if we have enough time to prepare for a canceled game?"
Right. The goal, if possible, is always to see if we can reschedule if possible. But that just depends on, you look at your school and what your school has going on, but then also your opponent has something going on as well. And the biggest key through all of this is communication. It's communication between the coaches, players, and parents to make sure that everyone's on one accord at all times. Reminding our players that if you have any slight symptom, any symptom in your household, please just let us know so we can make sure that as a whole we don't have to um, shut down, and you can take care of yourself and your family. As far as communication between schools, making sure that everybody's on one accord and understanding, we're all good to go. And that's a week by week thing. It's constant communication throughout the week. If a game gets canceled, there's always that look forward to making sure that we keep the kids encouraged as well, because this ordeal has been going on for almost 2 years. It's been really tough.
Yeah, now put yourself back in a high school student athlete shoes. You want to play. You hard
Right.
headed. I'm good. Your head, dude. You sweating bullets. I'm good. I'm ready to play, coach. And then they go to spread.
Right. It's definitely interesting. It's just keeping the kids encouraged, letting them know that we're gonna try our best to allow them to have a season if we can, safely.
Yeah, again, we hard headed, so we definitely gonna try to say, hey, well, nah, I'm fine, I'm all right. Then there you go. That was present on. Well, let me ask you this: in reference to something like that, do you, if you see one or two cases on a team, do you completely say, hey, we need to isolate the whole team, or just only via contract tracing?
Right. A lot of times schools have in place that you would just quarantine that one person that is infected and the people that they are around. But it just depends. You can have a player that says, "Hey, I'm positive of COVID, and I was only around my teammate." Okay, your teammate might have a brother and sister who play other sports, or they're at a different school, like a middle school, and there's a big line that you have to follow going into that. And then let's say you have a player who say, okay, I tested positive. I haven't been at practice, but we did have a party over the weekend, and you don't know who was at that party and who's around, and that's how things snowball. And for a lot of schools, that's really how that has happened.
Yeah, again, you listen to More on the Road with Bernard Moore III, presented by More Sports Management. We're talking with Coach A.D. Alphaka Moore of Natchez High School in Adams County, Mississippi. Now, that's a very thin line right there. All right, you play a game Friday, and it's a big game or a rival game. However, you know that you're gonna want to go celebrate, and then you go to this party over the weekend. Then kids come to school Monday saying I'm sick. I'll call, or you don't see them for a while. It's like, man, wonder what's going on. And then now that's go again, that contact tracing that you probably had to shut the whole school down because half of them were students of your particular school. Are you guys telling the student athletes to kind of be very mindful of what you're doing and who you're around?
Oh, most definitely. It's a constant conversation. And I jokingly tell mine every day, I love y'all, but go home. Go home and stay there. Like, if you want to see your friends, call them, or y'all go around each other, stay at a like a separate distance, because at the end of the day, you want to play. Like when basketball season starts, I want my kids in their own individual bubble. You know, I mean, it's hard to control it, but you just try your best to remind them that any little thing, especially seniors, it can mess up your opportunities. So try to stay clear and stay out the way, and find stuff to do at home. Play your PlayStation. That's what you do anyway.
Well, let me ask you. Well, did you all had to cancel a lot of games last year for fall and winter sports?
For football, I know we ended up canceling maybe our first two games. Toward the end, we had to cancel maybe two more, but majority of the games they were able to play. Going into basketball season, we had to cancel maybe our first 5 or 6 games, and we really didn't play for a while. And we kind of got in the groove towards the end, getting ready for district, which was perfect timing, of course. But it was definitely tough, for a while. It was touch and go, and every week, especially when you get into playoff time, it's so nerve wracking because you could make it all the way, and one little slip up or someone getting infected and everything's gone. So it's, it's different for sure.
Well, speaking about basketball now, disclaimer, not being disrespectful or bragging anything along that line. You guys finished 11-6 this past season, and like I said, you were undefeated in districts 5A, Region 6, and you lost to Brookhaven in the second round of the playoffs. How did that feel? Now, I know you guys had a first round bye. How did that feel coming in and that saying? I know that you are. I'm not. Don't know the reason, but you said you can feel that your girls didn't give it all that they had playing against Brookhaven.
Right. You can prepare students and players as much as possible for um the biggest moment of their career, but they're the ones that have to go out there and execute. I think my kids did the best that they could. But going into that playoff time, knowing that you're one game away or two games away from the Coliseum, that's a lot of pressure. And the biggest thing is who wants it more. Everybody has that pressure, but the bottom line is who can handle it better and who wants it more. And I think that's what it came down to. I was really pleased with them. We still have a young team coming back, and I'm ready to get after it. My favorite part of coaching high school basketball is these kids are still learning and they're eager to learn. So, we fall short sometimes, but when you got kids who are constantly working, you can't be mad at it at all.
All right. Well, I know that you start off in Natchez, then you left and came back to Natchez. And while before you left, you had the opportunity to win 2 championships. The
Yeah.
success, the success that you had then, and the success that you continue to build to now. What's the difference? Well, what's the difference between when you first and now your second go round?
To be honest, there's not much of a difference. Every day you go in there with the same goal, same mindset. The only difference I may see is, you can tell when there is a falter or a slight lowering in your feeder systems. Like feeder systems are so important, and I encourage all coaches to spend time with your middle school programs, with your city league programs, so you can see the training that's going on and the kids that you'll have in the future. I know that previously, when I had my teams, one of the things that my girls and I would always talk about is how they used to love to play ball during City League when they were in fifth grade and fourth grade and third grade. And you could tell because they had that basketball IQ when they came to middle school, when they got ready to go to high school, they understood the game a whole lot more. And when you have a drop off in your feeder system, you can tell. So right now I have a group that has not played much basketball. They're learning quickly, but there's definitely some time that they missed out on that could have definitely helped them out a lot. So the only difference I would see is just the IQ, but we're constantly building that every day.
Well, let me ask you. Well, I'm not very familiar with the school district there. How many middle schools and high schools do you have within Natchez?
Within Natchez, you have one public school, which is Natchez High School. Middle school wise, you have two middle schools. There's Robert Lewis Magnet School and Morgantown Middle School. And then outside of our school district, of course, you have your elementary schools. And outside of our school district, you have a couple of private schools. But for the most part, my goal for the next couple of years, and we just started it now, is providing kids with an opportunity to go to a gym or anything for a sport that they love outside of school, and that's a big part of it.
Okay, with you having two middle schools, all those students coming to Natchez, or some of them, like I said, they may be on the borderline where middle school they can come here, but high school they have to go outside of Natchez.
All of those kids will come to Natchez High School. We also have an opportunity for upper level education and dual enrollment classes. So they do have an opportunity to go to what we call Natchez Early College Academy, and in this school they are allowed to take dual enrollment classes to get college credit. So I do have players. Some go to Natchez High School and some go to Natchez Early College, and it's really good because at the end of the day they're all a part of one team, but some are provided the opportunity based on their academic ability to succeed a little higher. And when they leave high school, they could possibly leave with their associate's degree.
Wow, That's all. Well, let me ask you, how many with the private sector is not as large as compared to the public sector. Have you lost any student athletes that you felt that you was going to get from middle school go to the private schools?
Yes, I we have, and that happens everywhere. I think it does happen. It's just based off of what that family feels they need at that time. But for the most part, we get our kids. We might lose one or two, but for the most part, they come to Natchez High School.
Yeah, and it's expanded and it's continuing to grow. And some families feel that public school is sometimes is overcrowded. Well, just because of what district is being overcrowded, so I want to send my kids to private school just so that they can be safe. I said, you all face that's still the same thing that you're facing as well.
In the academic world, not necessarily. When you have a family who's serious about, yes, their child's academics, but their athletic success as well, a lot of times that weighs heavily on their decision of which school they go to. And that's always, I think that's why you always have the battle sometimes of private versus public, and it's just what that family is looking for at that time.
Okay. All right. The 5A girls champs, Mississippi 5A girls champs. That school sounds very familiar to you, doesn't
That is my alma mater, my high school.
it? How, as a former student athlete, I know you had an opportunity to coach there as well. How do you think you played a part in that? Because it wasn't too long. This is the most exciting. Did you hear my question, Coach?
I'm sorry, your system froze. Can you repeat that?
Yeah. Okay. I know you just left Florida not too long ago, and yes, they are the 5A Mississippi 5A state champs in high school basketball. Do you think you played a part in that championship, or you say, "Hey, well, congratulations to their current coaching staff. They did an awesome job." Did you hear the question, Coach? Well, again, this is Bernard Moore III with More on the Road, presented to you by More and More Sports Management. Talking with Coach Alphaka Moore of Natchez High School, the athletic director. And this is the most exciting part about technology. So, hey, it goes in and out sometimes. Hopefully that they would definitely go ahead and keep everything upgraded. But we know that they're working on stuff. I know I was asking, Coach, can you hear me now? We're definitely going to try to get Coach back on. I know I'm looking at her signal strength, and it's relatively low. But I don't say one thing about this streaming, I definitely like to know how it is showing. Can you hear me now, Coach? And see, there goes, it does that with the sound. I don't know why it does that with the sound, go in and out. It does that whenever it goes in and out, the sound will go out. But hopefully we can definitely get it back. Can you hear me now, Coach? See, there you go. I can't hear her, but she can hear me. Can you hear me, Coach? Yes, I see you bubbling up around, but I can't hear you. That's the outstanding part of this technology. Sometimes it goes in and out. Well, Coach, I know if you can hear me, I really appreciate your time for joining me this Saturday morning. We definitely must do this again. And I see, based off looking at the network connection, yours is very low on my end. I like this streaming system that I'm using. Restream Studio. I like the way that I am using it. It does give me the strength, signal strength, and so I know some mines went down sometimes, and now it's showing that your signal network connection is low. But Coach, I really appreciate your time, and I wonder why this stuff is keep on going in and out. Can you hear me now, Coach? See, it kicked you out, then it brought you back on. Can you hear me, Coach? See, I still can't hear you. See, I don't know. It does that. I guess that that's something about the streaming service. But hey, I still got nothing but love for it. We definitely gonna have to get together again, Coach. Next time we probably just gonna come down there. I'm gonna have to make a trip down to Adams County. I'm gonna have myself in my bubble suit to protect myself because I don't want to spread the variant and get anyone sick down there with you all. Coach, I wish you all well this upcoming season. We'll definitely be cheering for you. Anything that we can do here with more on the road as well as with ESPN Talking Sports, we're definitely there for you. Coach, appreciate your time and I'll chat with you later. I know if you can say bye-bye, I can see you. Yeah, I see you talking, but I can't hear you. Appreciate your time, Coach, and I'll chat with you later. 1 + 1 = deuces. Talk to you later, Coach.